Scanning for audio.
Welcome to another Tin Dog podcast. Still survivors, still listen along. Part 3, Judges. Now, there's a definite change between parts 1 and 2 and part 3 and what I'm assuming is part 4. Apparently, they were recorded in 2 separate blocks. Episodes 1 and 2 are set really close to the initial catastrophe. Episodes 3 and 4 are set much later. Time has definitely passed, allowing times for, the colonies to develop, people to lick their wounds, and the bodies to, rot away. People are making a go of it, and this helps lay parallels with the TV series. Now, again, as I said last time, I've not seen the TV series, and as I've been recording these kind of a day at a time, I've still not seen the TV series, but I know I will be. The TV series is going to become more and more important, obviously, because some of the characters from the original TV series are coming into this Big Finish version. So the whole parallel aspect, it's more fluid than you would think. Now, story 3 is called Judges, and it's written by Andrew Smith. Now, as we all know, Andrew Smith, marvellous chap, friend of podcasters, used to write for Doctor Who on the TV. He's written some stunning Big Finish stories, and yes, Brood of Eris didn't get the best review from me going, but that was, and I will admit this, mainly because I listened to it at work and I was having a terrible day. I could have listened to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from beginning to end and still not particularly enjoyed it because of the sort of day I was having, and that's not the sort of thing that should really influence a reviewer. But we are only human after all, and it's not like I'm doing this for a job. Enough apologies. What I need to talk about is this. Andrew Smith, as well as being a Big Finish author, used to be a policeman. He gave up being a writer of comedy and some particularly good drama in order to, be part of the Thin Blue Line. He's only come back to writing after leaving the police force after a fairly lengthy stay. This extra background, the sort of thing that writers' groups get discussed all the time, bring to your writing what you know and what you feel passionate about, is more noticeable here than in any of his other works, because it's called Judges, sticking with the biblical work. There's a very famous Latin saying, which I'm not going to bother repeating, which basically is, who watches the watchman? Now, in a post-apocalyptic world, there are no watchmen. A new character for this story is a policeman wearing a uniform that represents the past. Every time a character has represented the past and former government, the stories have set out to illustrate how impotent, how they have the good, right ideas, but are powerless in this terrible dog-eat-dog world. So, Ian McCulloch, Greg, and Jenny, played by Lucy Fleming, from the original TV series, have turned up and have now become part of this narrative. Now, Jenny was mentioned in the last story by one of the characters driving along the road, so she has been in this before. Greg, ex-oil rig engineer, helicopter pilot, and man with definite ideas about survival, also very protective of Jenny, and white middle-class male, is almost instantly the hero of the story. Other characters who have survived from elsewhere in the narrative all are turning up here, all at Gillison's survival retreat, the Polytechnic. The Polytechnic, however, isn't the perfect society. That's hardly a spoiler. No society is going to be perfect after the events. But Greg does ask Gillison on meeting him what his model for a society is. It's the sort of thing that really kind of needs to be dealt with. Because beyond anarchy, which is what you were presented with, and everyone just taking things to survive, you're going to have some way of interacting with people. Eventually, things will run out. Things need to be replaced. And everyone's using stuff that's just sort of left over. Now, admittedly, the human race is in very small numbers, so they should be able to survive quite well on what's been left, but it will go eventually. So you have to lay the seeds, literally, for your future. Your model of society is probably going to end up being feudal, or, at the very least, marginally right-wing. A benevolent dictatorship is what seems to be going on here. Now, I don't want to go into any spoilers, but one of the major concepts of the original Terry Nation piece was, well, let's look at it this way. Red Dwarf is a comedy. Everybody's dead, somebody's trying to survive, and each individual story deals with a certain aspect of humanity, a certain aspect of the human condition that needs to be examined. Admittedly, they use comedy. Here, it's darker. People are even more disposable than you would think. People's actions are increasingly self-centred, despite the fact that everyone wants to bring out the best in each other. Levels of trust are minimal. People are becoming more and more damaged. A feudal system involving kings and lords is just a posh name for bullying. But if there's no one there to look out for someone else, there is no justice. And that's what's at the core of this particular story. It's exceptionally well crafted, very, very well written, and beautifully acted. I am so impressed by Survivors, and I am so looking forward to the next part and finding out where this goes. So as before, not disappointing whatsoever, and so looking forward to the next bit. So until next time, when I'm discussing the last part called Esther, again the biblical references abound, and I for one am a bit scared because, let's face it, women in this story are definitely being looked at as breeding machines. Oh, it's so 70s sometimes. And it's got me wondering, because I've not seen the TV series, I don't know the answer to this question. Will babies that are born be immune to the plague? If both parents are providing the DNA, the chances of them being able to fight off the immunity are slightly higher, but I still suspect not. You just don't know, unless of course you've seen the show, and then you do know. But please don't spoil it for me. Right, I'm off now to listen to part 4, and I'll speak to you soon. Be seeing you. You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its connected properties are copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Whostrology, a Time Traveller's Almanac, is available through Telos Publishing or Amazon. Visit www.whostrology.com for further information. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.